Hi, my name is Danielle Komis, graduate student at Rowan University. This is my Building Blocks to Teacher Leadership exit presentation. So what is a teacher leader? It is someone who is hardworking, flexible, understanding, you're a role model, you're willing to take chances, you're cooperative, and you always have the student's best interest. Some of the contributions of a teacher leader: that you are being a change agent within your district. You partake in research and follow through with those practices. You are analyzing data. You help students through various interventions. You help develop curriculum. You praise student achievement. And you have parent and community involvement. My main theme is the building blocks of leadership. I can look at our leadership program as building blocks because each of these standards builds upon each other. That as you continue adding pieces, you are continuing to grow your structure. As you grow your structure, you're becoming a stronger leader. You can also add on to your structure by helping students, colleagues, and the community. And my structure is still growing as I continue to learn. The first standard is that teacher leaders are committed to students and their learning. The main part is making knowledge accessible to our students. By doing this, I have differentiated instruction within my classroom. I am a 4th grade math and science inclusion teacher. I have varied learning styles within my classroom, and I make sure that I hit upon each of the styles. And I have sought out ways to make math fun. I also make sure I understand how students develop and learn. I have ELL students within my classroom, so I make sure that I am at their language levels. I make sure that we have age-appropriate instruction. I make sure to build upon prior knowledge. By doing so, I used to teach 3rd grade, so I know exactly what was taught prior and how to go on and help with 4th grade math. And my key is to make lessons relatable. I want to make sure that when we teach math, the students know exactly why we are learning. Some of my artifacts was my class experiment paper. Here I'd make sure to have students' questionnaires so I get to know the students. Each student interviews each other. When we come to the intermediate school at Pennsauken, it is the first time that all 5 elementary schools are put together. So most of my students do not know each other. I also like to question my students on their learning styles to make sure I know exactly how each learns. And we have a ton of group work. Our second standard are teacher leaders know the subjects they teach and how to teach those subjects. So make sure that we have a mastery over the subjects we teach. So our main issue that we have in math is word problems. I had developed a checklist that we go through since the beginning of the school year to help with word problems. We make sure that we visualize, we draw pictures, we highlight key terms. I want to make sure that we have hands-on math so students actually can work and talk to each other. We have a key of real-world application. So exactly when are you going to use fractions? When are you going to need to know how to measure? So students can actually internalize their learning. And we have a knowledge of how to build topics upon each other. Coming from 3rd grade, I know exactly what was taught before and how to go about helping students grow. And then we have the diverse instructional strategies. I research tons of outside materials. We incorporate videos and have hands-on learning. And we have a ton of small group instruction. Every day, we have at least 25 minutes for in-group instruction. One of my key artifacts was my interdisciplinary content-based unit plan from my ESL classes. Here I made sure that we learned how important language objectives are to help students. We've really learned all about differentiated instruction and how to modify for each student, and learned about a variety of assessments. Our third standard are that teacher leaders are responsible for managing and monitoring student learning. To help manage student learning, We have a variety of instructional methods. So I have hands-on learning, videos, students are teaching each other. My direct instruction is kept to a minimum. So for our 76 minutes in math, I try to keep my direct instruction to 10 to 15 minutes. I know that I have a very hard time paying attention, and I make sure I relate that to students. We spend most of our time with small group work. The key is making the subject enjoyable. So I'm trying to make math enjoyable at 8:15 in the morning. When you have an exciting subject and making it fun, you then have increased student engagement. To help monitor my student learning, to make sure that my students are reaching their objectives, our district has an iReady program that they go on so we can monitor levels 3 times a year to see if they're growing and what areas they need help with. For each of our monthly PD meetings, we go over data analysis. So we look at our benchmarks and we see what standard students are not achieving, which ones are they exceeding, and how to help each other reach those. Daily, I have students complete their own reflections. So they discuss and think about how easy or hard the lesson was, what they found enjoyable, how I could change my lesson to make it easier for them to understand. We have increased parental communication. I use Class Dojo, and I also have a YouTube channel that parents can watch math on to help. We have a set of clear classroom expectations, so students know exactly what I expect when they come into my room, and a variety of assessments. So we have exit tickets, we have our benchmarks, and we have project-based learning. One of my artifacts was our case study. I really enjoyed this because it was a way that I could find ways to make math fun. I started putting a positive reward system within my classroom. I also sought out ways to have increased parental communication because I knew that was an area that I needed help with, and finding ways to make lesson plans more enjoyable. Our 4th standard is that teacher leaders think systematically about their practice and learn from their experience. That I really wanted to focus on various learning theories. So understanding the processing theory so that I understood how your brains worked, how we could process everything. Learning how to reach out to all students. I have ELL students, we have 504 students, and I have IEP students. I want to make sure that I am reaching out and helping each of them. And I want to make sure that my content delivery is good for those diverse learners. We have newcomers who don't speak English, so I have to make sure that I am instructing them the same as I would other students in my classroom. To continue learning, I started with the Rowan's Master's program. I am looking at various webinars that I visit. I go to my students and demonstrate how I think about these word problems, how I process information. And not only are my students doing reflections, I am also doing reflections. If a lesson was bad, why was it bad? What could I do for my next class? One of the artifacts that I enjoyed from our 4th standard was really the personal theory of learning. I liked having a moment to step back and actually think, all right, how can we instruct students to learn? How can I become a better teacher? What do we need to do in order to make sure that my students can succeed? I really was able to set up my small group instruction to really focus on the different categories of learning, how to activate prior knowledge in math, and to really demonstrate thinking skills. We needed to really focus on critical thinking and how to get students to think. Our 5th standard, our teacher leaders are members of the learning community. Within my school, I started the STEP initiative, which was partnered with Rowan to go over, we went to social emotional trauma-informed care to try to help students in our district. We started an awards assembly after each of the marking periods so students can be acknowledged for academic and character development success. This year, We started a social emotional learning committee where we're really focusing in on SEL and how to help students. And I also started an adult ESL class on Saturdays for our entire community. To help with the learning community, we have our professional development meetings, during which I work with our math department, and at times I will lead the discussion on how to help. I work closely with our math coach. We have our vertical grade planning, so I work with third grade to know what we need help with, and then fifth grade I ask, okay, what are we working on in fifth grade? What do you want those students to make sure when they get to fifth grade, what are they ready to do? And we have parent involvement night, where we work with parents to go over how to log on to our math programs, and so they get to see what their students are doing. The one artifact that I really enjoyed for Standard 5 was our plan for school improvement through change paper. This is where I really sat down and looked at why the STEP initiative was so important, started bringing in data as to why our school was struggling. We needed to really move towards a positive rewards program and to get the students the help that they need. Rowan also has standards. The first standard that teacher leaders account for the needs of cultural, linguistical, and cognitive diverse learners. To work with the diversity in the classroom, like I said, I have ELL students, 504 students, and IEP students. I know that we need to have extended processing time. When I ask a question, I don't even start raising or answering kids until about a minute in to make sure that every student has a chance to process the question. I make sure that we're culturally sensitive in my classroom. I work with the ELLs for the adults. I use Google Translate. I work with our ESL teachers, and we're working on a summer program for ELL students. The one artifact I enjoyed the most was our case study for an immigrant student. Here's when I interviewed one of the adult students in my ELL class. I would be teaching her son this coming school year, so I wanted to really get a chance to know why they came to the United States, what issues they're facing, just so I can already set up a bond before the school year started. Standard 2 for Rowan is teacher leaders or change agents, leaders among their peers and partners with colleagues. So being a change agent, you're going to want to go out and find ways to improve your district. So I started the adult ESL class. That's to help teach English to our community. We're building relationships. Some of the adults have no children in the district, so we're just forming a positive bond. We started a STEP initiative, which is trauma-informed care. We increased counseling for our students. Now we have the SEL initiative, so we're focusing on social emotional learning and having mentors. And we had the awards assembly committee, so we have positive rewards. We're building a community bond. So during these awards ceremonies, I'm reaching out to community businesses to come in, giving gift cards out, ways to form bonds. Our one artifact I enjoyed was our teacher research study. Here was when I got a chance to really begin thinking about how to help our school. This is when we had problems with behaviors. Well, we got a chance to delve deep into why do we have these behaviors? How can we go about fixing it? And this is when we started looking at the STEP initiative. The third standard for Rowan is that teacher leaders use technology to facilitate student learning and their own professional development. So for student learning, not only do I have hands-on lessons, we have real-life math application. Make sure that our students understand the use of technology. In my school, we are one-to-one, so we use Google Classroom constantly with doing classwork, exit tickets, our tests are all on the computer. I also enjoy Khan Academy that has a lot of videos and support for my students. For professional development with technology, not only do I have the professional development with webinars and through Zoom meetings, I also follow teachers on social media looking at ways that they teach math and how to help. and all our webinars, these over the summer, attended programs, working through that. One of the artifacts that I enjoyed was our teacher research reflection paper 3. Here's when I really got to learn about how to make sure that math is interactive and hands-on, and really go into how to make small group lessons. For my COGS, I focused as English as a second language. In Pennsauken, our ELL population is increasing each year. So I want to make sure that I learn to be a culturally responsive and sensitive educator that and I also wanted to help colleagues that when they get an ELL student, maybe a newcomer or a different level, how you can actually help and instruct. And I learned that it's okay to sometimes instruct in the native language, that when I get students, if they're more comfortable in counting in Spanish, I let them count. Because math, the same, numbers are numbers. It's fine if we count in your native language. I also got a deeper understanding of WIDA and how to learn our different levels. The impact in my classroom was really looking at like PSYOP lesson plans and really making sure that when we're discussing, like especially in math when it says to draw your conclusion, that our students aren't actually drawing pictures. They're understanding our words and having hands-on and building our background knowledge. So my impact within my school during this teacher leadership program is that I really focus on having a varied language teaching methods, that I really have differentiated instruction, that not one size fits all. We have an integration of content and language standards. We have a variety of assessments, the use of my technology, and our social emotional learning. To reach out to the parents, again, we have the adult ELL program, positive rewards, working with our math coach. To tie in with our building blocks, again, each standard is building upon each other. Without having one standard, your structure will fall apart. Each piece is making you a stronger teacher. Each block is needed in order to hold that structure together. If we don't put our students first, then a piece is going to fall apart. And as you are growing, you're adding pieces to make your structure taller and stronger. As you venture out, you end up having a more expanded structure. You add parts when you help students and colleagues in the community with ways to make a stronger structure. As I said, my structure is still growing. I am continuing to learn. To tie into our readings, when we started the program, we wanted to see how you've grown as a teacher leader. In the beginning, I needed to realize that it was okay to take on a leadership role. Our one quote from Barth was talking about that a lot of times it's like an assembly line. And we heard that a lot this year, especially with our superintendent stating, this is your job, you're there to service. Well, you need to figure out exactly how you are servicing, and each person is different. You need to figure out exactly how to help that one student. In our McBee reading at the end, really just solidifying that it's okay to start a change, that you're able to compile data, that collaboration is key, that teacher leaders play a critical role in moving change initiatives, and that you learn that it is okay to do that. These are my references.